Hello, everyone, and welcome to another massive week in the world of the automotive industry. I just want to start off by announcing my usual band of crazies. Matthew Henson and Graham McDonald, thanks for joining us.
Morning.
Morning all.
We're getting a lot of feedback on this line. I think it's you, Graham. Hang on. Yeah, it's definitely Graham. So we've muted him for now. We'll come back to him when we've got something else to say.
In about 10 minutes' time.
You can use New Zealand Sign Language there, Graham. Now, must be a busy day down on.
Worst fingers, to be fair. So thumbs up, pretty good.
This is very professional for our first episode. That's actually going out live on LinkedIn. So I'll unmute you there, Graham. We'll just go with the sound. How does that sound? Yeah, there you go. All right. Now let's start off with a bit of a rumor. Coming through the online channels that no one may know, but and Graham, you won't know this. Matthew, you haven't know this either. My sources suggest to me that we may see the announcement of the, and I hope I'm getting it right in the term, the emissions reduction plan next week, or at least a draft of it. And it may have leaked around the place a little bit. I have not seen a copy. And it may have in there that we are getting scrappage, the long-awaited scrappage. So if you go and hand in your old clunker car and then you go and proceed to buy an electric vehicle, you will get a nice check from the government. So that's an interesting rumour floating around the place. We will confirm on autotalk.co.nz as soon as we can. Graham, I imagine that would have a little bit of appeal to the market.
I'm sort of on the fence, actually, Richard. I'm not going to give you the answer that you thought I was going to say. Look, I think that scrappage schemes around the world have worked largely to help the bottom line of new vehicle manufacturing in their domiciled countries. But I've yet to see any real evidence that it's improved the age of the fleets per se. And what it has done, and it happened in America, was it actually pushed up the value of the older polluting cars, so to speak, because they now had a tangible value as a trade, or for that matter, for the people that genuinely can't afford to buy either a new car or a late model used car, it pushed up the affordability factor for them to keep their old car on the road. In other words, the $2,000 car that they were buying suddenly became a $4,000 car. It didn't mean that they could go and buy themselves a $15,000 car. They still had to buy the cheap car, but it just meant that it suddenly became a lot more expensive. And I don't know, in New Zealand, which is kind of, let's be honest, it's a low wage economy. We do have a reasonably old fleet, but that's as much because of the demographics of New Zealand as opposed to any desire to keep old cars on the road. It's going to make it tough for a lot of people in that lower part of the vehicle buying sector. It's not going to change anything for them. It's just going to give them less options and make those options more expensive. And is that really achieving anything? I'm on the fence, Richard. I know you want me to say it's going to help sell more cars, but I think there's a downside to it that possibly isn't being considered.
I think you'd certainly see a short-term boost, but it doesn't help the fact we can't actually get any cars to sell at the moment.
No, and that's a good point. So we can't get cars to sell anyway. And the bottom end of that marketplace, we call it the junkers, the clunkers, that sort of stuff. Well, you go, I'm in West Auckland, okay? So you go to Pack and Save's car park during the week or on a Friday and look and see what's parked around there. That's the sort of should we say, the lower socioeconomic bracket of New Zealand. And it's predominantly older, cheaper cars. I'd love it to be full of new Aquas or brand new EVs, but it's not. And it's not because people don't want them. It's because they can't afford them. And they're not going to afford them today or next week or a month or a year, no matter what scheme's in front. Just going to make them more expensive.
I find it interesting, no matter how deprived an area is in New Zealand, though, you do go to the supermarket car park and you'll see two things. You'll see old cars and late model Ford Rangers and Nissan Navaras on 20-inch wheels.
Yeah, well, people that drive Rangers do shop at Pack and Save too, Richard. We're not quite that bad out here.
I think back to when I was on my OE and I was in the UK in the late 2000s, so the noughties, I guess you'd call them, and the British government there put in a scrappage scheme at the time. It was about £2,500, which is quite a lot.
Yeah, that
and
is. Yep.
and what it was supposed to do was, revive the local vehicle industry. There were quite a lot of cars being built in that time in the UK at that time, and shift people out of these old cars into newer, safer, more efficient cars and so forth. All that happened was that two models sold, and they sold in massive volumes, and that was the Hyundai i10, which was an basically Indian market car that barely scraped over the line into to meet UK standards, and the Volkswagen Fox, which I think was the same deal.
Right.
And those cars were shifting in such massive volume that at one point they had a picture in the paper of Hyundai had landed like 2 Roros from India entirely full of these vehicles at one time, and it was just totally counterintuitive to what the plan was supposed to be. So I think Scrappage good. I think they've just got to make sure they get it right. One of the wordings I've heard is maybe the Scrappage might be on new cars only. I doubt it, but hopefully that doesn't happen. It'll be interesting to see what that comes out. But now we are dealing at the moment in the market with some changes to the market that have had an immediate effect, and that is the clean car discount. Now, we've seen the sales figures come out this week, and we've seen quite a reshuffling based on that. New and used vehicle registration data from Kotahi for the month of April has been really showing a significant month-on-month decline as the market starts to normalise following the introduction of the clean car standards. These changes have seen car dealers around the country rush to register as many vehicles as possible, in particular vehicles with higher emission levels, in order to avoid paying clean car levies. And we want to see an example of that, I think, and I'd have to go back, but I think there was something like 130 Jeep Gladiators registered in the month of March. And that's a car that sells about 130 a year, I think.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of bigger vehicles sitting around with number plates on them at the moment. The figures saw Ute registrations plummet by over 70%, with hybrid models ruling both the new and used vehicle charts, and no Ute appearing in the new car top 3 for the first time in years. Now, the MIA is saying the decline is temporary, and I find it hilarious that we've seen stuff in the Herald and various others blasting these headlines about how devastating this has been to the industry, and the market is down, and so on and so forth. It's a statistical blip. It means nothing.
Did my head in. Is our media that stupid? Clearly they are.
Yeah. And it's almost like they took David Crawford's words in his press release to be some big acknowledgement of doom. It's not. He was saying the exact same thing we're saying. It's just a blip. It's just a blip. I mean, I imagine your month this month ain't that much different to the last, Graham?
Well, okay, so April, obviously registrations-wise for us was a real peak because we held everything off for the month of March to register. There was a hybrid, obviously, or that was eligible for the clean car rebate. We held it off to register in April. Well, of course we did. So that meant that, like everybody, the numbers of qualifying rebate vehicles sold in March across the land were down, and the number of registrations for emitters, like obviously brand new utes things, but also just stuff that we sell here, like CRVs and Vanguards and stuff, they were up. And we saw that in the numbers. It was a record month, I think, for registrations of those vehicles. In April, exactly the reverse has happened, like we'd all predict. We saw a very high number of first registrations of cars that would gain a rebate, and we've seen very, very few, if any, registrations of stuff that would claim a fee. And if I go back to a point I made a few weeks ago about this, I think that the stockpile of vehicles that have been registered that are obviously emitters and going to carry some sort of fee, we're going to see a few, 3 or 4 months probably of that stockpile to work through. If you did the numbers and sort of deduct what we normally sell in terms of hybrid vehicles or vehicles that are now either neutral or rebate attracting, and that left you with what you understand we sell every month that would now attract a rebate, I think we probably pre-registered between 3 and 5 months worth of stock in advance. And that'll take a while to work its way through. And we're just not going to see those numbers, at least in terms of registrations, come into the numbers for quite some time. And it's exactly the same, I'm sure, with utes.
Now, conversely, we've seen analogously, we've seen the vehicle arrivals down over 11.6%. That, again, I think that's just a blip of people moving stuff around and shipping and so on and so forth. The market's going to keep on doing. I always love the the old comment, anytime something like this comes along, and I almost feel like it's used to allow the government to push stuff forward a bit, is the industry finds a way. You're a bunch of crafty buggers. You find a way.
Well, yeah, okay. Can I just, again, sorry, I'm hogging the mic here. I'm sorry, Matthew. Yes, we are, but of course we are. We're businessmen at the end of the day. But don't forget, we've actually got to have a market to sell these things too. So you can import all the widgets in the world you want, but if you've got nobody buying widgets, you ain't going to sell any. So the car industry is as much a part of a marketplace, an end user marketplace in terms of our customers, as it is our ability to sell. And at the moment, I think we're seeing a bit of a tail off. Can I just say a bit of a tailwind or a cooling off, perhaps, in the buyer interest in cars in the used marketplace, perhaps. I can't speak for new. And we might see those sort of little cool winds of winter start to breeze their way through. The numbers are certainly down coming across the wharf, and I think they're going to continue for a little while now. Combination of things, volumes in Japan to purchase, plenty of stock in New Zealand that was pre-regged, difficulty obtaining that hybrid stock that we want, and just perhaps a little bit of consumer resistance coming on through towards big ticket spending.
Mm-hmm. Now we're going to go in a completely different direction here, and hopefully, Matthew, you'll have a take on this one, and you can help me here. Who here's a Simpsons fan? Who remembers the episode where Homer became a truck driver, and he discovered the secret box that drives the trucks on their own and allowed everyone to get away with doing what they were doing? So that comes around as a segue to Mercedes-Benz trucks are the first into New Zealand with level 2 automation on a truck. So Kiwi customers can now order a Mercedes-Benz truck that can help steer itself. Not steer itself, but still. Now available on Actros models, the active driver assist technology enables SAE level 2 partially automated driving capability, a first New Zealand trucks. Bearing in mind that there are cars in New Zealand that arguably are touching on level 3, but most of them are lying. Now, Mercedes-Benz trucks introduced the individual driver assistance technology as an optional feature after a successful 1.2 million kilometre validation program that included 20 trucks, including 15 units in Australia and 5 in New Zealand. So does this mean you're going to quit journalism to go and sit behind the wheel of a truck, Matthew, while it drives itself?
I feel like this question gets raised each week, whether I'm going to quit tomorrow and do this new job. Richard, no, I will be staying with you. I know you don't want me here, but I'll be staying with you. You're trying to get rid of me, and I don't like it. What I find quite interesting is, and maybe one of you guys can sort of chip in here. I remember seeing this technology debuting on the Mercedes S-Class in about 2006 or so, 2007. From memory, I saw it first on a Top Gear episode, Jeremy Clarkson just having being terrified of the car stopping by itself and following traffic and all the like. And we've seen it rolled out now on a lot of economy cars these days. So what are the constraints that have delayed Mercedes in introducing this sort of thing to the trucking world? Because I assume that there's something.
Well, I guess the difference being is that a 50-ton vehicle is a higher risk than a 2-ton vehicle.
Well, that goes both ways, doesn't it? In terms of the safety is paramount for the 50-ton vehicles. You'd obviously want to have every possible safety mitigating feature that you could for an H-plated 50-ton B train going from Auckland to Wellington at 3 a.m. But on the other hand, you also then want to have the best possible driver and steerer in person that can read all the individual conditions that come to a drive, let's say from Auckland to Wellington. Funny, I did a drive from Auckland to Wellington, or nearly Wellington, at night just a few weeks ago now. And if you've done that drive, particularly south of Hamilton, once you sort of hit about 1 a.m, it's just exclusively trucks, B trains backwards and forwards. And I'd argue those guys that drive those trucks, for the most part anyway, are probably some of the best drivers in New Zealand, because they have to be, because they're going through such a variety of terrain and circumstance. And the whole AI thing when it comes to driving, I've always been a little bit hesitant to say, look, it might work in the Australian outback, perhaps, where you've got, 50 miles, turn 10 degrees, 50 miles, turn right 10 degrees. And I know that's being a bit glib. But New Zealand particularly, we have such a huge variance of terrain and road circumstances and rain and then snow and then sleet and then sunshine and then ice and then all these different things that I really wouldn't want to see the human element taken out of our heavy fleet. As good as we believe AI might be, I think the word you just used before was assistance, but I don't think that's going to come anywhere close to replacement, I would hope, for a very, very long time.
My take on it is that, and from my, like Matthew and I drive pretty much everything new out there in the market. We've driven a lot of cars with assistance. I've done a lot of miles in cars with driver assistance. I am not worried about it replacing truck drivers anytime soon in New Zealand. I sat down a while back with one of Nissan's head of autonomous vehicles at a conference up in Hong Kong, and he was saying this is miles away. It's Tesla's saying this is going to happen overnight. It's not. It's just not. No. And the thing I see it though as an assistance. I know that when I drive a vehicle with a really good lane keeping system and really good adaptive cruise control, I can do a lot more miles in a day without fatiguing myself, because while you're still there looking and so forth, it just does take that little bit of load, that little bit of pressure off. And that's what I hope with this, is that for those drivers who are out there predominantly doing the driving, just having the truck on all these open stretches, just taking that little bit of steering weight off, is just going to potentially reduce fatigue a little bit. And maybe in the future we could allow, in some cases, slightly more flexibility in fatigue rules and resting rules around vehicles that are fitted with such technology. So that's my thought about where it could go. It could make those vehicles more efficient. It could make just ease that little bit of fatigue. In some cases, with some of these things, I think it may actually reduce vehicle damage, particularly things like adaptive cruise. In many cases, is potentially going to be less harsh on the brakes than a driver might be in some situations. So I think it's a really broad thing. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes. Now, a brand we just mentioned there, that's Nissan. So 4 new Nissans confirmed for 2022 New Zealand market debut, which is interesting because Nissan's just kind of been really quiet in the New Zealand market for a number of years. They've confirmed a host of new models, including the much-anticipated Z sports car, scheduled to land in the showrooms in the second half of this year. In a statement, the company said the second half of 22 will be one of the biggest 6-month periods in Nissan history, with the new Z, Pathfinder, X-Trail, and Qashqai all launching locally before the year finishes. No comment about Aria, which is their electric SUV.
I was going to say, where's the Aria? They've been more active in the small car marketplace in Japan anyway, I think, than they have been for several years. And you'd argue and say, well, Pathfinder, great product that it might be. I mean, these are products that are almost contrary to the whole idea of the clean car discount and rebate scheme, obviously. As a Z sports car, well, that's nice. I'm going to get my lippy and my hairdresser lined up. I don't mean to be derogatory there either. I'm sorry if you.
Oh, come on! You'll be itching for me to pop round to the yard with the.
Yes, I know. But here's the point: is that Nissan's got a really good range of small stuff that's been out in Japan, or it's been talked about being out in Japan for quite some time. And you'd say, well, in New Zealand, surely isn't that the stuff we want here? It's almost like we're getting the crumbs off the bottom of the table. Yes, it's nice to have that sort of stuff, but it's not the stuff that's really going to hit the marketplace here with force.
There's a very, very, very broadly known reason for this. Do you know what it is, Matthew?
Oh, you're going to tell me no matter what.
Yeah, I think I know too. But come on, Richard, you're waiting for the question.
Nissan New Zealand for the last 4 or 5 years has increasingly been a very small branch office of Nissan Australia. And they run Nissan New Zealand as if it's Australia. And it's not really the case. New Zealand is such a different market, and we want completely. Those more efficient vehicles. We want electric. It's just
what was interesting. We talked about the Aria and electric. It didn't just not mention the Aria. It didn't mention any of the e-power stuff as well.
No.
Which that's been confirmed in Australia and New Zealand. The release that they issued about the story was an identical copy-paste of what they released in Australia, which is, corroborates what you said, to the point where the local GM's quote in the story was identical to the quote of the GM in Australia, which I thought was pretty funny. But yeah, no mention of the e-power.
Look, it's just sad because Nissan has such great potential and used to be it was a top 3 player in New Zealand for so long. And they've kind of missed the boat that cars don't sell in New Zealand like they do in Australia, and we like different cars. And we look back to the past, and they had a previous John Manley was the previous general manager there, who ran Mr. New Zealand for quite some time, and he did some smart things over the years, things like bringing in some Japanese spec cars in order to keep in certain sectors of the market. My understanding, he was looking at e-power, but looking at e-power, he had to go and buy used import stock to get test cars in New Zealand. Just to see if he could work around a thing. Maybe wrong on that. That's just industry scuttlebutt in fairness, but it would be, I think, really good if, and I know they've got a new leader at Nissan New Zealand, and I understand, and I feel that we're going to see some change from Nissan in the near future. But please, Nissan, remember that New Zealand is its own market, and you guys have such a great history here and some great cars coming. Let us have them, because Nissan pioneered that e-power platform. If you want that platform in New Zealand now, you got to go to Honda. and I was driving the Honda Honda Jazz HEV over the last weekend with the that whole they call it parallel hybrid system, parallel or series? No, parallel hybrid system, and it's a great little car. It's a fantastic little car, and I think if we could see some Nissans with that powertrain here, it would just appeal so much. I guess the only issue with it is it doesn't necessarily work perfectly well within the feedback scheme, but maybe. Anyway, New Zealand, a study reveals what makes automotive customers mad. So this is how customers feel after they've been into your dealership, into your service centre.
Underneath it was actually just a picture of Graham, which I thought was really
So, what day of the week? No, customers make Graham mad, not the other way around.
I was going to say, where's my survey?
So, some of the factors include what day of the week it is, the manners of staff, poor communications, and long wait times. They're core elements of poor customer service experience in the automotive industry, according to a report issued by Consumer Radar, specifically studying local automotive service and repair industry. Consumer Radar collated feedback from more than 25,000 customers placed on 100 different businesses across 2021. And notes that Sunday and Monday are the worst days of the week for customer feedback, having observed that positive feedback dropped by 10% on these days. And I honestly have walked into a yard on a Sunday and seen the hangovers. And I wonder if that has anything to do with it. It's interesting, isn't it? Sunday's probably a day now where lots of people want to shop for cars. But not a lot of people want to work. I find intriguing a bit of a movement within the new car industry to not necessarily be open on a Sunday, and I actually almost encourage it a little bit. But do you guys leave the grumpiest, surliest salespeople to be on the yard on a Sunday, Graham?
Well, if Charlene's watching this right about now, look, I'm really sorry, Char. Please be forgiven. No. We actually have. We have some good people on a Sunday, but we don't open a service department on a Sunday or a Saturday. Right. And it's interesting that you get customers that come in on a Saturday afternoon at 4:00 saying, I'd just like to get this seen to, please, in my car. Like, well, yeah, really sorry, our service team isn't here. Well, why not? Because they work Monday to Friday. They've got a regular service workshop. Well, why aren't they open? Because it's a Saturday afternoon and it's 4:00, man. Thank you very much. Well, why can't I get it seen to? And it's, people's expectations are different, I suppose. I think the industry, sometimes it's expected to be almost 24/7. I mean, I get phone calls from customers at 8:00, 9:00, 10:00, that sort of stuff. It's just expected that because you work in the car industry, you must always be attentive and open. I'm like, well, you know what? If you go to Harvey Norman's at 5:31 on a Thursday afternoon, want to buy a lounge suite, I'm pretty sure, sweetheart, they won't take your money. I think we've almost built ourselves up to a level of customer expectation in the motor vehicle industry that is almost too difficult to attain, particularly in these times when it's hard to get staff. It really is. We've heard about the skills shortage and the staff shortage. Well, if you'd like to employ more salespeople and more service technicians, where are you going to get them? They're not there. So you do have to balance off, and I think a drive towards family needs. I think we've been through the phase where everyone just got flogged to death in this industry and worked every single day and had Thursday afternoon at 3:00 off before they went back to work again. Maybe we've got to be a little bit bolshier, I think, as an industry and push back and say, what isn't acceptable to be here 24/7. We want to be there to help you. We want to be there to assist you, but there are expectations upon us as a responsible business or businesses or an industry for our people and our people's well-being and our people's families' well-being too. Is that a bit PC to say that?
Yeah. But Matthew, do you expect to be able to go in and get your car fixed on a Sunday?
No, not really. I think
It's
that
not now.
no, exactly. Definitely not at Graham's place for sure. And I know all the ins and outs now. I think. I mean, the study did sort of indicate that there's a pressure to stay open on the weekends because that's when people are available to go to these places. And it's sort of one of those catch-22s whether we look at a reduced working week during the week or whatever to make up for being open on a Sunday or whatever. But I think that you're probably right, Richard, that we might start seeing brands reducing their weekend hours, just especially during with all the sort of working from home environment stuff we've had in the last few years.
Now, I'm going to throw an idea out that comes from the motel industry of all places, and that is, and this really comes down to just service and not necessarily sales. In that, if you, in the motel industry, you have in a town, they will go and have the duty motel. So if you go to Rotorua and you arrive in at 1 a.m, 90% of the motels won't take you, but they work together to make sure there's always a duty motel. And that duty motel stays on and has someone available that weekend in case there's an urgent need for a room and so on and so forth, and they can put you into a room. And I wonder if perhaps in the service and parts industry there should be duty outlets. So the industry through the MTA regional boards basically works out that they schedule that one or two shops are open for emergency service over Sundays or whatever over a period over each weekend, which means that by and large most businesses get to close, the staff get to rest on a set number of things in exchange for one day where they do stay open to urgent stuff. And a prime example for me was on the weekend where I was like thinking this would be a great idea. So we had a flat tire, a slow leaking tire in a car on Saturday without a spare tire in the car. It was a Corvette. There's no room for a spare tire. It was 3 o'clock on a Saturday, and there was virtually nowhere to repair it. Now, we were up in Warkworth at the time where there are 5 tyre shops and nothing was open after 2 o'clock. And so and then there's nothing open on Sunday there. The closest place was to go down to central Auckland, where on a Sunday there's about 3 open. So wouldn't those stores be better off that they all agree that one of them opens after 2 o'clock on every Saturday or stays open on a Sunday, and they rotate that round? They all get a mix of the business. They don't have to compete on those times when it's quiet, and everyone gets guaranteed rest. It's a crazy idea. I'm just saying.
No, not going to happen, Richard. Okay, you're comparing black round things that go on cars. I mean, yeah, I know that's glib. Again, there's lots of different variances in tyres, and certainly changing a tyre on a C8 Corvette in Warkworth, well, yeah, you're not going to go out to the back and find the old 15513 off the back shelf, are you? The car industry is just so different, though. If you talk about brand-specific stuff, even in the used industry, look, I'm sorry. I'm selling a product here that we put a lot of time and effort into making sure it's a good one. And if there's an issue with the product, the people that I want to fix that product is going to be us, okay, if there's a problem, or somebody that we can speak to and have qualified to make sure they fix the product correctly. And I'm sure most dealers, particularly in the new sector and the franchise sector, the last thing they want to have to do is their customer with their brand new thing go to their competitor's workshop and have them try and fix the thing on a Sunday afternoon. There's no parts. There's no service manuals. There's no nothing. You're going to get some guy scratching his butt who's been pulled out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning because that's the time, putting on his best, cleanest space-time overalls and trying to fix this thing. No. Tires, yes, fantastic. Knock yourself out. Servicing of complex machinery that requires specialised equipment and tools and parts and technicians. I don't see the buy-in, Richard. I really don't. Nice idea, but no.
Out where you are, can you get cars plated on a Sunday?
Yes, there is one outlet we can get cars plated. Yes, yep.
So I'm gonna add vehicle inspection, getting registration and plates. I'm gonna add that service list of services that they could do that whole weekend thing on.
But it's generic.
Yeah.
that's generic.
Yeah. So there you go.
don't need to have
that's two aspects of the automotive industry we can chuck in that pool.
But it's happening. It's happening anyway. Just because you were in Warkworth in a C8 Corvette, next you're going to ask us to have a duty manager at Milford Sound to cover off your Renault Espace camper van.
Mum, Dad, stop fighting.
There are limitations to this.
It's funny you say. I'm actually pretty sure that like THL has a service person based out in that corner of the world for just that aspect. But
I'm pretty sure he won't get out of bed at 3 a.m. for your Renault Espace either.
It ties in with the attitude of roadside assistance services now. Chuck it on a flat deck. Ain't no one around to deal with it. Chuck it on a flat deck.
I'll tell you a small story about that, and I cannot mention the name of the brand, and I won't. But a customer had a roadside, we used to say roadside assistance person attend to a incident in their motor vehicle that had no idea about how keyless ignition systems worked when it came to a flat battery and a key, and was unable to assist them to start their motor vehicle. So when you're talking about the standard or quality of such services, I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure I hope you can change a tyre these days.
In most cars, there's literally pictures on the steering column or in the center console to tell you what to do.
So you'd think.
Right. On that bombshell, to steal a line from Jeremy Clarkson, we're done. We better get back to work. Matthew and I are going to go off and finish a magazine that's going out Monday with some great news in it. So don't forget to catch that. And Graham, you're going to better head off and deliver some Lexus LS 430s to waiting buyers.
You what we do. We've got a Lexus LS 430 going out this morning. If you haven't driven one of those, they are fabulous.
Is that your last one though? Have you got any more?
Funnily enough, we can help you with some more.
Well, there you go. So if you're looking for a Lexus LS 430, get out to Croydon's out West Auckland. Awesome. Right. Thank you so much. That's Matthew Hansen, Graham McDonald. We'll see everyone again.
Thanks everyone. Have a great weekend.
10 o'clock next Friday, live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn now. So, we'll catch you over there. Oh, God. I'm stuffing this up.